So the question today is: are you sick of studying Clown World? And is that studying process, learning about all the systems and philosophy of Clown World, is it really the best use of your time? Because for me personally, I'm rapidly coming to the conclusion, if I've not already arrived there, that my appetite for learning more about Clown World, the ins and outs of it, I'm I'm not interested in it anymore. I think I've actually got to the point where I already know enough, and whenever you study something, it consumes time, time that could be spent learning about something else instead. So for me, I've massively cut back on the amount of time that I'm spending time learning about all of these kind of like aspects of Clown World. So that then begs the question, what should we be spending our time focusing on? Well, I think it's time to really focus on solutions, rather than like trying to learn more about what the problems are. And for me, really, the solution lies within each of us. Again, it's very, very easy for people to just sort of say, oh, well, X, Y, Z needs to change. Somebody else needs to change. The government needs to change. Local authorities need to change. Politicians need to change. My next door neighbour needs to change. And everything will be okay. Because I think what happens there is that you're abdicating your own responsibility for what we've experienced, particularly over the last 4 years. So we all have our weaknesses. For me, one of my weaknesses isn't speaking out, because I actually have set up my YouTube channel. I've tried to communicate with ex-colleagues. I've tried my best, and I've done that publicly without the veil of anonymity. Lost a lot as a result of that, like my career, like well over £500,000, because I had at least another 10 years of work left. And, people that I was friendly with, I'm no longer in contact with them, either because they don't want to contact me, or I don't want to contact them, or have no desire really to continue to contact these people, because there doesn't really seem to be much reason for it, in that they're completely and utterly brainwashed. I think for others in the truth community, they might understand something of the problem, but they don't really understand basics like what actually is freedom. So they might say that they're truthers, they might say that they oppose Klaus's tyranny, but they don't understand the very basics of freedom. Now, what I'm going to do in the next week or two is to produce some videos on what actually is freedom, because if you don't understand what freedom is, then how can you develop strategies for putting freedom into practice? If you don't know what it is, how can you don't know which target to aim at, because you don't know where the target is. You don't know what freedom is. In the past too, I've done videos on natural law. I'm not very good at doing these links, but maybe I'll try to put a YouTube embedded link in at this point in the video, because I've done videos on natural law. It's really, really important that all of us understand what natural law is. And I think that this is quite important, because it doesn't come under the label of religion. So people who've got their kind of blinkers on, brainwashed people, even they will have a gateway into basic human philosophy, in a way that if it's like labelled under a religion of some sort, then the blinkers come down and and they're not listening. So we're all at different stages, I suppose, of our development, and as I've said many times before, I think we're put on earth to learn, and we go through various experiences. Some of those experiences can be very, very tough indeed. But what we're supposed to do is to learn and make progress as a human being throughout our life. So at this point in the video, I'm going to start talking about Christianity. I'm going to start talking about Jesus. Now, there will be people who are agnostics or atheists who get triggered by this, and they've probably already switched the video off already. But for those that haven't switched the video off already, my question again to you guys is, what is it that causes you to trigger so badly and to get so angry when people like me start talking about Jesus Christ and the best-selling book of all time? You know, what is it about this that triggers you? And I suggest to you, it's probably because you're demonically possessed. So what I'm going to talk about is a particular aspect of the Jesus's Sermon on the Mount. So this was when Jesus Christ began his teaching, and he did a sermon overlooking, I think it was the Sea of Galilee, on a hilltop, and it's recorded in the four Gospels basically. So there's 4 different people who give an account of the words that Jesus spoke on that day, and he spoke about all sorts of different things. But what I'm going to home in on now is something that Jesus said that I know it to be true, but for me as an inherently flawed human being over my life, I've found it, because I can be a bit feisty with people, and that's always, I can challenge people. That's okay when you do it verbally, and also not harbouring bad feelings towards people. I think that's also very, very important, and I think I've made progress over that in my life. But what I'm going to do now is I'll just show you what Jesus said, and maybe I can sort of chat about it afterwards. So this is in chapter 5 from the Gospel of Matthew, and it starts verse 38. So Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." That's what Jews believed at that time. But Jesus says, "But now I tell you, do not take revenge on someone who wrongs you. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, let him slap your left cheek too. And if someone takes you to court to sue you for your shirt, let him have your coat as well. And if one of the occupation troops," this is obviously at a time when the Romans were in that part of the world that's now called Israel, when one of the Roman troops, occupying troops, forces you to carry his pack 1 kilometre, carry it 2 kilometres. When someone asks you for something, give it to him. When someone wants to borrow something, lend it to him. So for me personally, of all the things that Jesus said, this is probably the most difficult one that I found to adopt. So don't take revenge on somebody who wrongs you. Well, it is very tempting to do that, but you know what I've learned over my time is nothing really good comes of it. Let's just think of some examples. So it might be somebody who just trolls you, you know, either could be online, it could be just in person. This like one person in particular that I try to avoid my interactions with this guy, because he just can't help it. He just wants to try to kind of like push buttons and troll. So, and I know that if I respond, even if I respond with some humour, then what he'll do is that he'll use that, he'll spin it up and try to claim that it was me that was in the wrong by citing what I said in retaliation. It doesn't work. What's much better is just to ignore it. And if you ignore it, then he doesn't get what he was after in the first place, which is energy harvesting, which is what you're doing when you're retaliating. You're giving the troll your energy. You know, and it can also apply physically too. If somebody, obviously it's good to avoid being physically injured by somebody, you know, like by moving away from a situation. You know, if you've got, I don't know, somebody might be drunk or something like that, much better to walk away than actually just engage in physical violence, although it might be quite tempting to kind of do that. You know, it's all about ego again, you know, that so somebody might have, like, I don't know, tried to kind of, yeah, upset you in front of other people, or like try to physically harm you, but nothing ever good comes from it in the long run. Yeah, so I'm very happy to kind of accept that. Again, what I am conscious of though is that, you know, in the heat of the moment, it's so important to be in control of your own feelings and keeping your own ego under control. Again, I'm being absolutely ruthlessly honest here. So yeah, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, let him slap your left cheek too. I suppose maybe the one exception to that might be just sort of self defense. You know, sometimes you might need to stop somebody just to prevent further injury to yourself. I guess the thing about the occupation troops forcing you to carry his pack 1 kilometre and then Jesus saying carrying it 2 kilometres. I kind of encountered some of that behaviour when I was at the last school. There was this one person, she's actually passed away now. And again, she was a bit of a bully, really. She was a woman, so she wasn't going to physically bully me, but she would use her power within the organisation to try to get me to do all sorts of things that would consume my time, my valuable time, make things as awkward as possible. And I quickly sussed out again that the best thing to do with her was just smile and just do whatever she wanted me to do, not complain. She wanted me to complain. She wanted me to moan. Don't provide it. And then, of course, you're removing her incentive to do it again. So I think that that's definitely right. And then the last thing about when somebody asks you for something, give it to him. When somebody wants to borrow something, lend it to him. Again, when I think about my wife's actually absolutely brilliant on this. You know, and I think, again, it's good advice, isn't it? It's basically the golden rule. Like if you were in need of something, and your need was genuine, it would be nice if somebody helped you, so you should do the same. That's not to say I don't think you should help. You know, if you've got somebody who's exploited you before, like there was this guy that I used to know called Simon Harrison, and as a student I remember he asked to borrow my Echo and the Bunnymen 12-inch single. Which one was it now? Anyway, it was a single. It's quite expensive. It was quite rare. And anyway, he borrowed it, and when he returned it, he kind of accidentally included the wrong record in the sleeve. So he didn't give me the Killing Moon. That was it. My record back. He got like some rubbish record and then put it in the sleeve, and I didn't check. So I don't, you know, if somebody's deliberately trying to exploit you, then it's harder to follow that advice, isn't it? But you see where my dilemma is here. I'm sort of rambling a little bit, but you know, I still think that the right thing to do is to treat people how you would like to be treated. I think that's a good way to end it. So, hard messages there. For me, this is the thing that I struggle with. You know, this part in the Bible here about where Jesus talks about turning the other cheek, and when somebody asks for your shirt, let him have your coat as well. That's what we're striving for. So that's all I want to say today. So God bless. And let me just say this: could you imagine if we all behaved like that? What a fantastic world we'd live in. So we have to, as Gandhi said, we have to be the change that we want to see. You know, if we want to live in paradise on earth, then this is it, isn't it? You know, you can talk about natural law. You know, yeah, that's got some good messages, but I think in terms of resonance, It strikes a chord, you know, the words of Jesus Christ. It's at a completely different level. Anyway, that's all I want to say today, so God bless.